Hey everyone, James Tierney here with Tierney Education. This is going to be a first of a series of videos I'm going to try and do every single Sunday called Sunday Morning Solutions. I'm going to take questions from my online tutoring students that they have throughout the week, and I'm going to go in depth with one and solve one out here every Sunday morning from my office in State College and blast it out to YouTube. So please make sure that you are subscribing, following, liking, doing all the things so that way you can get a solution every Sunday morning. And today we're going to be looking at the midpoint formula, trying to calculate the price elasticity of demand. So what is the price elasticity of demand? Right? Price elasticity of demand, we're trying to find out in words, how is the quantity demanded responding to a change in the price. Elasticity, think of a rubber band, right? A rubber band, how elastic it is how much it is responding to you pulling on it. That's all elasticity is in all forms of economics. Elasticity is a measure of responsiveness or a measure of change. So we know our base level equation for the price elasticity of demand. We would say price elasticity of demand is equal to the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Again, in words, how is the quantity demanded responding to a change in price? That's what we're looking for. However, if I give you, let's say, a graph here. Let's do this graph, quantity, price, and there's a linear demand curve that looks something like this. And I said, on this demand curve, there's a point here, let's say this is 8, there's a point here that's 6, so these are both, let's just measure these in dollars, and then we know that the quantity demanded at each point, at 8 it was 40, and at $6 it was 100. Now, I don't know, given this information, if the question was, what's the price elasticity of demand between these 2 points? I can't do percentage change because that percentage change is going to be different, right? If I go from $6 to $8, right, I see a 33% increase in my price. Right? If I go from 6 to 8, I'm going up by $2 based off of my 6, which is 1/3, so 33% increase. However, if I go from 8 to 6, I'm losing $2. Out of 8, that's only a 25% decrease. So our original equation does not work if we're just given 2 points and we don't know if we're going from point A to point B or from point B to point A. This is where the midpoint formula comes in. So what is that midpoint formula? Now the drawn out formula the textbook's going to give you is going to be the following, right? The elasticity of demand is going to be Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2. That's going to be your numerator. Divide that all out, P2 minus P1 divided by P2 plus P1 over 2. And that's going to be your denominator. Now you, like most of my students that I teach or I tutor, think this is a lot. And maybe you're allowed to have a note card or open books or maybe a formula sheet, and it's not that bad. However, I think there's a lot easier way to remember this that I want to go over. Instead of thinking of this drawn out, I want you to remember 2 things. The first thing is if you know the definition, how is quantity demanded responding to price, I know it's the quantity on the top and the price on the bottom. Instead of thinking of all of these numbers I have to plug in, just think of it being the difference over the average on both the top and the bottom. Difference over the average. And I know quantity is on the top and price is on the bottom. So let's go ahead and just do that, okay? Now, one thing you need to know if you're doing this kind of easier method is remember the price elasticity demand is always going to be a negative value. It's always going to be a negative value. Now, your textbook, your instructor might say, well, let's take the absolute value to look at the magnitude. That's great. But we know that the quantity demanded is going to respond in an inverse relationship to the price, because as prices go up, we buy less things, right? That's the law of demand. So we know that's going to be a negative number at some point. So I always just go ahead and put that negative number first. That way I don't have to worry about, oh, am I doing Q2 minus Q1, or am I doing P2 minus P1, or P1 minus P2? I don't have to worry about that. All I have to think of is what's the difference over the average. So let's look at the difference of quantity. What's the difference between 40 and 100? That's 60. What's the average? What's the midpoint, right? There's my midpoint word. What's my midpoint, right? So 100 plus 40, that's going to be 140 divided by 2. That midpoint's going to be 70. So 60 over 70 is now my numerator. My denominator, again, what's my difference in prices? It's going to be 2. Get rid of this eraser. And what's the midpoint of this, right? The midpoint of it is going to be 7. So now what do I know? I know that I can simplify this down. This is 6 over 7 divided by 2 over 7. I know that the way I have a fraction over a fraction, I'm just going to take the denominator, take the reciprocal, flip it. So this is going to be 6 over 7 times 7 over 2. Got that negative out front. My 7s will cancel. This 2 is going to cancel with that, going to get a 3. And so what I'm going to get is I'm going to get my elasticity of demand. The value of this one is going to be -3. My elasticity of demand between these 2 points using the midpoint formula is -3. Now sometimes you might want to figure out what the absolute value is. It's just 3. What does this mean? Well, we're going to do that in a different video. I hope that today's Sunday solution helps you out with using the midpoint formula to calculate the price elasticity of demand. Stay tuned every Sunday for a new video. And until then, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to make more videos helping you out with your Intro to Economics class. Make sure you like and subscribe.